Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Extra Innings, and we're your hosts, Kane Bradfield and Shannon Snyder. Today, listen, if you're a War Eagle fan, we got a special guest for you today. Baseball head coach, Butch Thompson. How you doing, Coach?
War Eagle, then. How we doing?
Yeah,
We're doing great.
let's go, baby. Look, Coach,
Great
now
to be with you
let me see
guys.
this hoodie now. Can you see this
Oh,
hoodie?
I see it. Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed.
War Eagle, baby.
Well, hey, Coach. Hey, I just want to talk a little bit with you today, and I appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us. I know you're a busy man, and don't want to take too much of your time, but I want to talk to you about some things, and how long you've been doing this thing, and our relationship going back 20 years, and maybe even longer than that. We're getting kind of old, and kind of want to go over some things. Being at 7 different schools, with your coaching career starting off at Huntington College and, then Birmingham Southern, and then going to be a head coach at Jeff State, in the JUCO in Alabama, and then being at University of Georgia and Mississippi State, and now the head coach at, the University of Auburn. The route it takes to be as successful as you had, and some of the sacrifices, some of the things you learned along the way, and the steps you've had to take to get where you are. Because I have many players in my program that would love to be an SEC coach, and I want to give them some information about, what steps and sacrifices, because it's all a sacrifice, the things you have to do with your family and moving around and, being away from your family, to make sure you're as successful as you need to be. So if you can talk a little bit on that, I would appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Shannon. To me, at the end of the day, it's a lot to unpack there. But first off, it comes down to relationships, right? So this is my 30th year in college baseball. But at the end of the day, when I reflect back, the rearview mirror is a lot smaller than the windshield, so we should always keep pressing on. But at the same time, when you reflect back, what's really meaningful is those relationships. And, when I got an opportunity to go to Birmingham Southern, I wound up meeting a mentor for my life in Brian Shoup. And I didn't just meet a coach, but I met a guy that may have shaped my eternity, I believe.
Right.
That's what my faith believes. So I got more than I bargained for. And then when I went to Georgia, I would consider you an amazing example of that, of a friendship from 2002 to today. We're heading toward that 20-year mark for sure. But, being out and, who is the best as a recruiting coordinator at Georgia at that time, who's developing players the best, who's got the best players, who do I have to go, and figure out and connect with. And, you had players going everywhere. But that relationship was forged from that recruiting standpoint there. And it still exists for us to sit down and talk today and visit.
Right.
So for you to still be trying to make a difference in our relationship, that sticks out to me. At Auburn, the first time, just how many people were gracious to me, even as an assistant coach. And then you don't know that you'd go on to Mississippi State for 7 or 8 years and have a run and get to go back home. And then the opportunity to come back to Auburn. You never know what's in store for you. But,
right.
A John Cohen, a Tom Slater, just, I feel like I've been so blessed. I feel like people have just been putting my life all the way through. And at the end of the day, it's relationships, I think, that's carried me. I think, the best coach in the world for baseball right now, he may not be coaching a Power 5, or he may not be coaching a big league team. He might be far away from those lights. So I think there has to be a certain amount of humility that even though I'm appointed and I'm thankful to be in the position I am, you stay hungry and you get up and you try to motivate and you get people to aim higher and you're trying to make a difference. And if you can just go with where your feet are planted, where these podcasts and these leadership principles, it's so true. I was an assistant for 23 years before I became the head coach at Auburn. That was 23 years between being the head coach at Jefferson State and getting a chance to be a head coach in this league. So, there were some dues paid along the way.
Right.
But I know I'm fortunate, and I know coaches are at different stages. But my point of those 23 years, I probably did it wrong for 5 or 6 years, Shannon. I probably for 5 or 6 years really had a poor mindset of, hey, this is my time. This is my turn to get one of these jobs, and doing everything you can to get them, but probably not even close to being able to obtain or get one. You know, some interviews and opportunities and sour, and I just every point in my life when I've gotten in a not a good place and I've made it about me, things haven't worked. When I just said, man, what are the principles of what I really got into this for? What was making a difference, providing for my family, being good to folks, representing the people, the university, the team that I work for, to represent them to the best of my ability. And I got to a point at Mississippi State where I'm like, man, just be the best you can. You got a whole group of kids that are just sitting here looking and listening to you every day, just yearning for you to develop them and make a difference in them. And really, when my heart got in a good place and got redirected back, then and only then did the Auburn situation come my way. Because I'd interviewed for this job before and didn't get it. But when I come back around and circle back around 2 or 3 years later, I was in a better place to lead. I was in a better place to come in this moment to do a better job of leading the program than maybe I was at one time before. And that's a lot of honesty. It may be too much that I should throw out there. And,
well, the thing about
still
it
today,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, surrounded with the right people. People have been there for me, above me, and blessed me. But at the end of the day, man, this is all about relationships, where you're coaching an 11-year-old team, you're coaching an SEC team, or whatever you're doing. This is the most amazing sport that exists. That's how I'm wired. That's what I believe. But you respect this game the right way, and you'll have a bunch of friends, down the road.
Yeah.
You'll have a bunch of relationships, and you can make a difference if you just really focus on where you're at the time.
Well, I was going to say this last and bring this subject up last, but it probably needs, well, ain't no probably to it. It needs to be first. And, I tried to look back, and I counted at least 11 guys that played for me, that played for you at University of Georgia. And the biggest thing that they was telling me that, and that's why, I probably got reversed even in this podcast, but the faith that you have, in God and those relationships, doing those Bible studies and things like that, before games and everything that you did, that's one of the things that my former players always told me about you. You were willing to go that extra step with them. And in all honesty, some baseball players aren't always, choir boys. And when they came back to me in the off season, I was a little bit weary of them going to the University of Georgia and that big atmosphere. But with the mentorship that you gave them in the faith and putting their energy where it needs to be in the Bible and faith, they came back better men, in off season. And I would say 80% of them are now either involved in 5-star program. They're doing something with us. And there again, I appreciate that, because you're not only making baseball players, you're making men. And everybody's not going to be Casey Mize, as we know, and go out. But everybody's going to have a chance to be a good citizen and a good dad and a good husband. And we all know how that goes. You got to have that certain kind of wife to do what we do, and we're on the road too. And I'm very appreciative, and I want to say that early on in this podcast, because that's one thing that really sticks out with me that you've done for my program after my players had already left my program. So again, I appreciate that.
I think about, we have to win, at a position that I'm in, that's part of the requirement. But I try to use it as an acronym of what's important now. And I'm only going to get this short window with these guys. And they've come from great families, and they've had great coaches like you to get them to that point. I'm supposed to enhance that. I'm supposed to protect that. I'm supposed to grow that. And you don't want to let anybody down. But if you just think about what's important now, winning ball games, developing the player, allow them to keep shooting for their dreams. But you know what? When we look back another 20 years from now, there's going to be some other things that are important. And again, I'm no rocket scientist. It was just impressed upon me from some good men that when I got an opportunity and I got that 3 or 4 year window with these players that, hey, this thing's bigger than ball. And there's some things that you can plant seeds because not every college ball player, you said it, baseball players, I have 3 daughters, which I affectionately call strike 1, 2, and 3, and I love them. And I'm probably not interested in any of those 3 marrying a baseball player, So,
amen to that. I have 4 daughters, so I get it.
That's funny.
But you're even if it's not in the moment, right now, today, because, we're not here to push any narrative down anybody's throat on what they believe. I think the good Lord lets us run our own show at the end of the day. And people influence us in different ways, and some are pushy and some are not, and everywhere in the deal. But, we probably have half of our team actively pursuing what we provide. But, man, that's important. And 20 years from later, you don't know what seeds you plant today, even if it's not manifesting itself or seeing it today. One of these guys are going to be out 5-10 years down the road, and they're probably not playing in the big leagues anymore, or they probably don't even get that chance. Like you talked about, everybody's not a Casey Mize, but we're all going to be humbled at some time. We're going to have loss of life with somebody that we care about. We're going to have a child that's struggling. We're going to have a relationship with our wife that, it's probably not our best days. My prayer, my thought is at least providing that an opportunity for when they're here to do the greatest sport of baseball, to go through this journey, play high competition, but you're also planting seeds for them to, at some point, someday, when they're faced with something, that you gave them something to help them be a man. And, you don't go with them when they graduate. When you leave them and send them to us, you don't come with them. And when they leave Auburn, we don't go with them. We stay here and we get the next group. But you hope
Scares you to death.
a good, yeah, a good, to me, a good coach is not what the coach knows. The definition of an amazing coach, I think, is when a player leaves you, what he knows, what he's equipped to do.
Right.
And so, that's something down the road that the most rewarding things to me in baseball is that 5 or 10 years later, when a player comes back and they genuinely say thank you, and it's nothing to do with the baseball.
Right.
And it's the other stuff that they thought that they were taught by playing with us and in our program that made them a better man.
Right. So, of course, that's good stuff, man. I know earlier you was talking about relationships, and Coach, I'm a super person who believes in relationship, take it to the next level. Whether it's your faith, whether it's your job or what case it might be. Now, is that something that you teach your players? The importance of just, building a relationship with the next person.
Yeah, I'm looking for synergy. Ryan Bliss is a great example in our program. He's the face of our program, and he's a winner on the field, off the field, in the dugout. Wherever he's at, he's a winner. And I call it, it's synergy. It's 1 + 1 = 3. Because Ryan Bliss, we didn't just get a good player when we got a Ryan Bliss. The guy to his right's a better ball player because he plays with Ryan Bliss. The guy to his left is a better ball player because he's on the same field with Ryan. The outfielder behind, the guy that whoever's locker's next to Ryan Bliss is a better ball player.
Sure.
That's what you're looking for. That's why this is important. That's why it can't be about you. We're part of a team. If you want it to be about you, go play golf,
Right.
This is about building the best team you can. And when you get those electric ones like Ryan Bliss, and there's a few others, but it's uncommon what somebody of his caliber can do. I mean, you're looking for synergy.
Sure.
But we have three words in our program: attack, legacy, vision. Those are our pillars that we're built upon. And really that legacy piece is when they play for you, when they leave, they'll come back and see you, and there'll be a relationship that'll continue. But their legacy's kind of etched.
Right.
While they're there. You're leaving a legacy. I tell our high school seniors right now, they can't wait to get to Auburn next fall and start. And I'm like, whoa, If you need to win a championship where you're at, you only got a few more months to leave a legacy where you're at.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Because a man wants to be able to walk back in a room that he lived in before and feel good about it.
Right.
And the time is now to be thinking about your legacy. It's not when you can't walk no more, when you're sitting in that chair. That's not legacy time. The time to think about and act upon your legacy is right now before you go to a new chapter. And to me, that's relationships. And you know what? I wish somebody would have told the 16, 17-year-old Butch Thompson,
Oh, man.
hey, this is your legacy right now. You got 1 or 2 years left in high school. You leave your legacy right now. And for the guys that are coming to us soon, I'm not talking about what they need to be working on before they get here per se. I'm talking about them stamping a legacy where they're at, where they can go back the rest of their life and feel good about it. And I want them to be mindful of that in the moment, not years down the road to try to go pick up some pieces or fix something because they rushed out.
Right.
That's good stuff. Coach, let me tell you, man, you talking about Ryan Bliss, man. I have been training Ryan since he been in the 10th grade. And, man, that's something that I noticed about him. And it's crazy, man. I tell him that all the time. I said, man, you're a 1%er. You know, 1%er is people, first of all, people expect a lot out of you because you are that 1%.
Right.
And, man, and he exactly is that, man. He's a hard worker. You know, it's a guy you know what I'm saying, definitely love, man, because, again, man, he gives off that.
Let's don't, hey, since we're talking about Bliss, let's just don't forget the main foundation of Ryan Bliss, which is his mom and dad.
Oh, most definitely.
Which,
yeah.
I got the pleasure to meet when he was a freshman at Troop. And talking with those guys, whether he played baseball or not, I knew he was going to be successful when he was 30 years old, regardless of baseball.
Right.
Throw baseball out.
Right.
You know, his priorities were set, to him at a young age. And, listening to those guys talk about Ryan and not getting caught up in he's, as a freshman starting shortstop, but talking about the bigger picture of, hey, he's pretty good, but, there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm sitting in the stands where, on the other hand, a lot of times in my line of work, I hear, the we word, like the parents go, we got to get stronger and we got to get better. They never said that about Ryan. They said Ryan has to get stronger, Ryan has to get better. And they didn't get caught up in that so much. And that's when I knew, in my experience of hanging around the people that I do in my line of work, that he was going to be successful.
Right. I agree with that. I agree.
If I could butt in, there's an elephant in the room with Ryan, from a professional standpoint. Can he play past this level? And people are wondering if he could play at our level. But, nobody really talks about his stature. He's not the biggest ball player on the field, never has been, never will be, but his smile's bigger than he is. His game's bigger than he is. And so it never comes up. It's like this elephant in the room that nobody talks about because, oh man, that guy's not that big. And then, there's bat speed and then the ball's, one hop in the wall. So now you take that away and, you talk about some range and him catching a ball and then you meet him and he's bigger than the space he takes up, he cast a big shadow and there's so much substance there. He's just busting at the seams.
That's what's up. It's funny though, because when I told him that, man, that we're gonna podcast you today, man. Boy, he's smiling, Coach. He was smiling real big, knowing that we're gonna talk to you today. So you let him know, man. You met Coach Kane.
I'm scared of Mama now. She's tough. She's there's a reason why he's wired so good. And you know what, Shannon? We always think we're super coaches, and what I was talking about, once you have your imprint, then we get an opportunity. But we know the coaches, the players that are a joy, that are ready to be a freshman All-American when they walked in the door. We're not sprinkling some dust in here in August when they first walk in the door. Those tracks have been laid from a very young age. And and I know Ryan will, but man, he's got to give a lot of credit to Mom and Dad because they have sacrificed and they've invested in him. They've made a good man.
Yep. You told me something. I don't know if you remember. It was a rain delay in the fall, we came up to play in a Georgia fall tournament, and we were loaded. We had all the bells and whistles as players, and we were sitting in the dugout, and we went down the list of the roster, and you said, and the one thing you told me, and this has always stuck with me. Not only do you have to be around that player for 4 years, but you asked me, do I really want to be around his mom and dad for 4 years? And so that really truly has stuck with me, that I've tried to pass on to my parents, not to my players. Some parents get it, some don't. But you're bought into those guys too, and going forward in the program, you want to be able to see them on family day and not have them, run the other way or whatever the case may be. You want to feel comfortable, and you want them to feel part of the family. And those are the type of players that I know strive really well in my program, because of the parents. And going, into D1 level, I know that's, everybody says, "Oh, I'm not taking the parents with me," but really you are, and because they can be poisoned still by a telephone call if they're not playing, or if they're not, seeing eye to eye with you or me or whoever's coaching. And so, whether Ryan Bliss was, what I'm getting at, whatever, if Ryan Bliss was playing or not, and I think me and you talked the other day on the phone about this, I think Ryan's mom and dad put into him that you don't have to make him happy. He has to make the coach happy. And, going forward in life, he, forget baseball, he's going to have to make a boss happy. And then Ryan will probably be somebody's boss. I think he'll have that opportunity.
Hey, there's some parents that are in our program that probably don't like my style. I'm country. I have a certain identity. I'm kind of set in it, and this is how I roll. I'm not as loud as some people want me to be. And that's okay. And there's some parents where I'm like, man, I really want to coach their son, and I want to be part of his life, but I'm probably not hanging out at the picnic with them either. So that kind of goes back and forth. The alignment, the agreement, when it really works, is that we all understand that this is such a tough level, because not everybody sticks, and sometimes guys go somewhere and they do even better, and they get to where they're supposed to get. That's part of it. But really, I'm looking for, like Rhonda Bliss, since we're talking about this family, it makes a lot of points of, like, he's yours, and I trust you with him. And I know you're not perfect, and I know I'm not going to agree with everything you do as a coach, but he's yours, and I trust you with him. Man, that's, at the end of the day, that's about all a coach can ask for. Because the ride can be bumpy. This is tough. We get swept, and we play at a high level, and then there's some days it looks like we had never played the game before. But if you're like, he's yours, and I trust you with him, that's really all a coach can ask for at this level.
Right. Well, I got to pick your brain on a couple of things now. I got to get some of that magic dust that you've gotten, because I did a little research. I know that I know the players that you've developed and how well you developed, but I didn't know until I started digging a little bit that you've had 31 guys play for you, pitchers that were undrafted, that ended up getting a chance to play at the professional level. And look, just go ahead and take some credit, because I know that's not you. I know that you're going to put it back into the players. But what have you done special to take that, obviously not average high school player, but a guy coming out of high school that didn't have a chance to play professionally that early? And what's the method or the recipe that you put into some of those players? By the time they were ready to get drafted again, they had the opportunity to play professionally.
Yeah, that's been honestly, that's been like the last 20 years in the work, from the time I probably got in the SEC at Georgia, Shannon. And I am convicted on some thoughts, and I think it's an unbelievable question. First off, I don't want Colonel Sanders on my team, because it took him too late to figure out the chicken recipe or get it on the box. He looks 7 years old on the box. I'm trying to get somebody to figure out a few of these things a lot sooner than Colonel Sanders figured it out. My point being is, if nothing to do with mechanics, if the first thing I can get you to do is to aim higher, I've made a better player. So I just took 13 players that are coming next fall. I did a Zoom with them and visited with them and asked them to give me 1 out of 10 where they think they are as a pitcher and as a dude, and as a man. 1 out of 10, 10 being the most awesome guy in the room, and 1, not being good enough.
Right.
And I got 8.5. I only got 1 out of 13 players to tell me that they were at a 10. And I'm not looking for perfection. I'm not looking for that, but I just turned it around on them. If I'm an 8 out of 10, do you even want me to be your head coach?
Right.
And if Auburn people, if I'm just, I think about a 8 out of our program. Do you think our donors and our people that make decisions on who's going to be the head coach at Auburn, that they want me to be that head coach?
Right.
I think the first thing, if you can do it, is you get somebody to whatever rung they're in to pull it out of the wall and get it on up another rung. Because that one guy knew how to answer that question, and maybe he'd heard it before, but he said 10, and I get guys going 7.5, 8, 8.5, and then, I want that to be a 10 when they walk in this door. That's how you have a freshman All-American, is somebody not think they're an 8 walking in the door. So 6 months before they ever get here, I talk about their legacy of the program they're at now, but I'm warning them, don't you walk in my door at an 8.
Right.
I want you to walk in a 10. But so you can make a better player if you start that process 6 months before they ever get here. And I didn't do anything with their curveball. I didn't do anything with timing. That's the first one. The second piece is you got to know exactly who you are. You have to know your identity. You have to know who you are as a person, whether you're a great person, a good person, or a bad person.
Right.
If you know exactly who you are, then you know who to run with. If you still haven't found yourself, I'm going to try to run over here. I'm going to try to run over there. You're going to be so confused and distracted and wore out because you don't even know what group to run with. You can tell somebody's got their identity figured out. I mean, you can just read them like a book. They know exactly who they are. When you don't know who you are as a pitcher and you walk in this door and these other dudes match you athletically and every one of them's as good as you to your right and your left, then one day you want to be like this one over here and the next day you want to be like that one over there. But if you know who you are, you're just trying to build the best you.
Right.
And I think identity is critical. I think that's how we get to a point of Casey Mize not being drafted and being the first overall pick and those other 30 guys that you're talking about, getting them to figure out who they are. And you know what? When you know who you are, you don't need 6 pitches anymore.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of boys made millions of dollars with 2. And there's a lot of guys that got their degree and didn't get to play another day walking around with 6 pitches.
Man,
And I'm not looking for pitches. I'm looking for a couple of weapons.
Right.
Bruce Lee says, I'm not scared of the man that's done 10,000 kicks one time. I'm scared of the man that's done 1 kick 10,000 times.
yes, sir.
Right.
Here's precision. Here's somebody that's going to, knock your nose to the back of your head before you even knew it was coming, because he knew exactly who he was, and he has sat down and he has sharpened that axe, and he knows exactly, crystallized what he's worked on. If you can get a young person to limit distractions, know who they're running with, know who they are. If you don't know who you are, you take the axe and you say, go cut the tree down. You go to the backyard and you come back a week later and this guy, man, he ain't cut a tree down, but every tree in the backyard's got, an axe mark in it, and they're halfway, a third of the way cut down. If I go like, hey, Casey Mize, this is who you are. I want this tree down before dark. Now, every one of those trees in that backyard probably ain't got a notch in it, but there's a tree laying on the ground. And that, if you can impress, get somebody to aim higher. Les Brown says people don't fail because they aim high and miss. People fail because they aim low and hit. And I don't know what kind of coach I am, but I know my charge is to get our program, our supporters, our players, everybody that would be proud to put on this hat or that hoodie that you're wearing.
Yes,
to
sir.
aim higher. That's my job.
Well, and speaking of that, you've already been to the College World Series 8 times. Took Auburn back. After those guys hadn't been there in 20-something years. Think it was 22 years. Um, and right here before COVID, I looked at the roster and I was getting excited for you because of our friendship. I'm thinking, hey, these guys might just not just get there this year. They might win the whole thing. And being 13-5, when you guys got shut down last year, then trying to recoup from that and understanding, hey, we still got to continue to work. This hopefully by the grace of God, this COVID thing is going to pass. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. We just got to continue to work and not let it get to us mentally. Being coming off that World Series trip and then having success early last year, how mentally not only the players but the coaching staff, because we've all been there. I've been in the middle of a game and we're winning, and all of a sudden it rains and you got that rain delay and you're thinking, how many ways can we lose this game after we get back? I'm trying to use, maybe that might be similar to how you guys were thinking, but what mindset not only the players but the coaching staff has had to go forward and kind of learn from these distractions and the setbacks for COVID.
Yeah, it's a constant challenge because we've all coached, had a baseball team, and you get in a rhythm. Whenever you stop, you just don't know if you can pick up
Right.
where you left off. I mean, halftime of a football game, man, somebody's throttling, and then you come back, and it's a totally different game when you come back out sometimes, or it's the hammer
Right.
down. You just don't know. And during this COVID, we used to be so proactive, and now it seems like the world is reactive, where you sit back and you just react to what's going on. That ain't how a coach wants a rhythm of life or a team going. And then
No.
everything we want to do is connection. You see all these things where like NBA, they did an NBA study where the team that won like the last 5 NBA championships were the teams that touched the most in a huddle, fist bumping, giving a hug, talking. It's like for whatever reason, it's a basketball thing. If a guy clanks a free throw or hits all net on a free throw, there's 3 people going up there and
Right.
bumping him before he takes his second free throw. But it's like
Sure.
the teams that are the best oftentimes are the closest. But
I agree.
in this time of COVID, it's not about connection. It's about keeping us disconnected.
Right.
And I believe in my team. I like our roster. You got a lot back. Hey, every coach in the SEC with getting people back and getting experience back, everybody likes their team. Everybody.
Right.
So we'll have to get out there and see. But to me, the team that gets off to the quickest start, the team that might have the most sustainable power, is the team that had the most self-accountability and self-motivation. Because these players have been left to their own devices.
Right.
I have not
Right.
been able to be on top of Ryan Bliss this year the way I have the other two. And you guys got a better feel if he's been working hard or not than I do.
Well, I know where he was
But
on
I just-
Christmas because I
Yeah,
saw him.
he with me this whole time, baby.
But I know how much he cares. I know what he's passionate
Yeah.
about, and I know he's working. But it hadn't been like we've been able to sit right here and drive on a group. This has been self-accountability and self-motivation.
Mhm.
The coach that has a ball club that's had the most of that is going to reap the most benefits, in my opinion.
So, Coach, let me ask you this, man. Like during this time, leadership is like super important, right? So, for your program, how important it is for your players to take over the leadership role during this time? Like you said, 'cause during COVID, you know what I mean? I mean that pulled you guys away. So, how important is it for player leadership?
Yeah, players are allowed to get better. Practices for the coaches, the games for the players. The locker room is y'all's.
Yeah, yeah.
And, again, Ryan Bliss is on my legacy team, and he's got 5 other teammates that make up that legacy team. This is their team. I mean, even if we have a lousy year, I'm going to get to coach another one. Now, I might not get to coach more than one more because I coach in this league, but this is their team. See, Ryan Bliss is leaving a legacy right now because this might be his last semester in college,
Right.
playing baseball. He might get that opportunity, and we're going to do everything we can to get up in behind him and make that happen. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But he's leaving a legacy right now. This is his team. I want him to feel that conviction and ownership to stir the pot. But that's their locker room. Yeah, I'm the head coach, and I'm going to talk to them every day before we get out there. And we're going to have a narrative. We're going to have a plan, and I ask everybody to do their part, do their job. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping the leadership of my program within the ranks of the players, I trust them with that locker room. When I was a young coach, I did not. But that didn't allow a Ryan Bliss to come into his full leadership in the moment.
Right.
And I held some guys back. Mistake. I made a lot of mistakes that hopefully we're not making now. Now I'm empowering Cody Greenhill. I'm empowering Ryan Bliss. I'm empowering Richard Fitz. I'm empowering our veteran players and giving them that team. I'm giving. When a young coach, you're trying to make your own way. You're trying to dictate what's supposed to be going on.
Right.
I think we get more growth by giving because you get more people involved in leadership. So the Attack Legacy vision changed here during COVID, and I had 20 men come on and talk to our team through Zoom. And I just happened to be lucky enough that Bo Jackson was one, and John Schmaltz is one.
Wow.
And David Ross, a manager, and Hal Baird, the winningest coach in Auburn history. So you get 20 dudes like that to come talk to your team. And then I went to those 5 guys, and I'm like, all right, I want 3 new words. I want to change while we're on top. I don't want to run Attack Legacy Vision in the ground. I want you to come up with 3 new words. A couple of things in play there. Good, it's a refresher during a weird time when we come out of here that we're not just doing the same old thing, and Bliss is hearing the same old stuff for 3 years in a row. I kind of got something new for him. The second thing is he's more invested because his name's on it. They come up with it. So they got to back it, right?
Right.
So if if I hand it down and I just beat it at them, then they can be like, yeah, I don't really like that. They can't say that. They're the ones that come up with it.
Right. Exactly.
So
exactly.
and they did an amazing job. They come up with confident, committed, and unified. Out of hearing those 20 guys talk, them getting together for a week and bringing me 3 new words. Confident, committed, unified. Because you know what? When David Ross and a Bo Jackson and we had Jonathan Sherholtz, I keep thinking of all the guys. Rick Eckstein's the hitting coach right now currently. Them boys didn't talk much X's and O's. I was amazed. They wound up talking about what kind of teammate you are and how you treat people. And dadgummit, I thought I was sitting here, I have my notebook, and I'm ready to get, this new pitch, and I'm ready to get all this stuff.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, these guys, they talked about legacy stuff. They talked about they can tell Bo Jackson's confident.
Right.
And he's a pretty humble dude, but you can see just confidence when all these men get on here. And they see how hard they work and maybe where they come from. And they see how committed they are. And then at the end of the day, these guys that come on here and won championships or are Hall of Famers now, they had to be unified with their club. And I just love how those guys dug out those 3 words. But this is their team. This is their team. And, I'm here to grow them. I'm not here to grow me.
Right. Well, I'm going to ask you one more final question. And, doing what I do for a living in travel ball, everybody asks me the question, and it's different for different coaches. What does it take to get to their level? And I'm going to ask you this because you've been on the recruiting side, the assistant side, the head coaching side. If you go to a ballpark and you don't know anybody there, okay, you just happen to show up at a travel team, high school game, whatever the case may be, you just show up. What is one thing or a couple of things that might turn you on about a player and maybe help that player start the recruiting process to be an Auburn Tiger?
Yeah, it's just you're just trying to win today. Winners rush in and drag out,
Right.
and the loser drags in and rushes out. If I think a guy's a really good player, I'm looking at that concept because I always tried to get there early
Right.
because I might only get to see. I mean, they might walk him 3 times. If he's that good a hitter, he might not get nothing to hit all night. And if I want to guarantee seeing him put bat to ball, I might have to do that 2 hours before the game. And is there 6 other teammates there already doing it? Or was he a guy rushing in? They had a thing with Sharif Cooper the other day. They just beat Kentucky in a basketball game. And after the game, and they're signing off, and he's out there still shooting.
Right.
Because he still had something left in his tank before he drug out.
Right. I like that.
The loser, you barely can get them to the park. Now, they might be the best player on the field on both teams, but they drag in and they rush out. And to me, over time, if I got to go the next 4 years where I get them, that's going to play out at some point. That's going to, there's going to be consequences for that at some point.
That love of the game, and a lot of guys that hang around the game, they're just dugout rats, like you talk about. They love to be there. We love to be there. I mean, I love to watch other teams playing. We have usually played 2, possibly 3 times a day. I'm not going back to the hotel. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to try to learn something from somebody else. I'm going to be a thief of knowledge from every team that I see. And, I see it every day, especially those players that we have, just they don't watch enough. They don't learn enough. The baseball IQ is not as good. Maybe that's not my fault as it used to be, because those guys, baseball, if you look at it, it's a little bit boring game. It's not like football or basketball. It's not constantly moving, and, so get them there, get them to watch the game. And I try to ask my guys when we hit with them, I say, hey, did you watch the MLB channel last night? Who's all got it? And it's a shame. They have the channel. They have some knowledge. You listen to Harold Reynolds and Al Leiter talk about the game, or whoever else is talking, and you don't absorb any of the things they're talking about. I mean, you've missed that opportunity to get that knowledge that day. And that's the biggest thing that I see from my 26th year doing this to my first year doing this. And so I'm going to keep pushing, keep pounding our guys to be students of the game. And like you said, be the first one there and the last one to leave. It's not a crime. I mean, our guys don't have a job. I mean, you come up, we had to play and work a job during the day,
Yeah. Greatness is uncommon. And, I answered your question with that one concept. But I got to see that. It makes it more believable because there's so many good players out there. Y'all know that.
Right.
And good Lord, we can't get every one of them. We're signing between 10 and a dozen players every year, and probably have the opportunity to honestly recruit 100. No different than any other college out there. But there's a level for everybody if you rush in and drag out because you worked hard. Right. My level was Birmingham Southern. Ain't no problem with that. I loved it. I met my wife there. I was shaped there. I wouldn't have changed a thing. For the most part, I tried to rush in because I love baseball, and I tried to drag out. Right. That has to happen if you're going to really play this game for a long time to sustain it, because a Major League Baseball schedule will wear you out. And if you're dragging in and rushing out young, you got no shot to make it long term. And then the second is, it's just as hard as a player and a parent to do it. You got to have a sponsor. Our Rolodex has been crucial to us during this pandemic with Carl Nunemaker's our recruiting coordinator, because you know what? We just haven't been able to see people play.
Right.
The commitments that we've got and the guys that we've actively recruited and made a decision to move on has been because of guys like you. It's been a Rolodex of somebody we trust.
Right.
There has not been a player that we've gotten. There's not been a player that we've had committed during a pandemic. You can see a video and like, man, that's a good player. But we have not been able to take a commitment if there wasn't somebody, his sponsor or somebody standing in the gap, that put their name on him that we trusted. that's how we've continued recruiting, getting it down to the final level. So if you're a ball player and a parent, you're going to have to find somebody that's going to put their name on you and help you find the right fit. And it's hard. I've got a 10th grade daughter, strike three. Her name's Madeline, a.k.a. Mad Dog. Mad Dog is on the high school soccer team here at Auburn High, at Auburn High School. And that girl wants nothing more than to play college soccer. And I can't help her. And we all know what I mean. I probably could. I probably could call a lot of people. I've been in this so long that I want God's hand to direct our paths more than I want my influence, because it may not be right. So I have to get her with the right coaches. You know, your high school coach is already picked for you, and I think we got a great man doing that. But this travel, I want to give her every opportunity.
Right.
But somebody's got to put their name on her to help her find the right level to give her the opportunity. And Dad can't do it. Now, that's my opinion. And everybody's got their own opinion. But young baseball players, if you really want a shot to go to the next level, somebody's got to be honest with you. You got to trust somebody. And you know what? You might get help and you might get somewhere, but you might get somewhere you ain't supposed to be that was over your head. And this thing is no fun, you know, drinking through a fire hose, walking up in the SEC or in the deep end up to your ear. Life ceases to be fun from that day forward.
Right.
So you got to find somebody in the game that's respected and trusted that you can connect with. And that could be high school coach or you guys or somebody that has a voice with somebody like us that's looking to acquire real skill and talent in great families.
Like it. Well, Coach, look, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the friendship and relationship we've had the past 20 years. And I know you have a busy man getting things going for the 21 season. And I'm going to be down there, and I'm going to be taking my team to watch you play. And guess what? We're going to get there early. And we're going to watch how you guys stretch, and we're going to watch how you guys, take around the infield. And we're going to watch those guys and see, how they present themselves in the dugout, and there again, I say it every podcast, I want to see somebody fail. I want to see, because I learned a long time ago, your character shows up when things go bad. I want to see a Ryan Bliss go 0 for 4. I know you don't, with 4 punch-outs. I promise you, his character's not going to change. It's going to be a good character guy. And I want some of my better players, because they're going to have days, like you said. There's going to be days like that. And, again, I appreciate everything, and I appreciate our friendship more than baseball. And I will be in touch soon. And, again, thanks for coming on for us, and I appreciate everything. And good luck in 2021.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And also, Coach, again, man, it was a pleasure to meet you. Heard a lot about you through Ryan and his mom, man. So, and today, man, I soaked in a lot. So, I appreciate the gems you dropped today, man. It was real good stuff. Real good stuff.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Shannon, you guys, I don't know. I just appreciate what you do, your investment in that community, which is not far from ours. And you're making a difference. And we're here to, there should be a connectivity to support one another as we're in charge of players at different levels to make this sport the best we can. That's what we should be signed up and got out of bed to do this morning. And every time we get to visit, I've loved it. So you guys have a great day and War Eagle.
Yes, sir.
War Eagle, baby.
Good luck, baby.